This session is going to be on direct competitors. There are actually many competitors out there, but for the most part we find they have no more than a local presence. In essence, that means that there's very little direct competition, but quite frankly, that's going to change soon. And that's the primary reason for our aggressive push. So let's look at some of the competitors that are out there. There's Solera 360. They're a Canadian-based franchise out of Vancouver. They have one franchise in the United States, and I would be very surprised if they gain much of a U.S. presence going forward, as they use rather outdated equipment. This gives you an idea of what their screen looks like. They have live TV there in the lower left, and their advertising is shown on the tower ad on the right and the banner ad on the top. Their host sites are almost always in a sports bar. Their typical franchise is 5 host sites with 3 screens in each of the host sites. Although they do have a new model with 10 host sites involving 30 screens. The issue that we found is that their equipment is rather expensive. Their basic franchise is around $95,000 all in, and their new 10 host site franchise is around $155,000 all in. As I mentioned to you, their equipment is a little bit outdated. Their media player, also referred to as a server, runs just under $8,000 fully assembled. Each one weighs about 75 pounds, and because of that weight, those servers have to be placed in a closet. They're fairly large. They're about 18 inches by 18 inches by 12 inches. And this compares to our server, which fits in the palm of your hand, weighs a few ounces, and is probably not that much bigger than most cell phones. They use a 46-inch special TV. Each one runs about $1,700, and they need 15 screens for their smallest franchise. This compares to ours, where you can buy your screen from anywhere, and it can be any size. Our TV screens typically run from $176 for a 32-inch to $650 for a 60-inch. For example, our 55-inch runs $493, which compares to their 46-inch at $1,700. Their typical installation at a host site requires a couple thousand feet of wiring so that they can reach all the TVs from the server in the closet. As far as a technology update, I think that's going to be doubtful for a while because they're sitting on such a huge inventory of screens and servers in their warehouse. The quality of their ads are rather basic. Their ads run from $250 to $450 a month for 5 host sites, and these ads are fairly representative of the type ads you would see on most of their screens. And of course, this compares to our ads on our single portraits, such as you see here. With Solera 360, we also have the rebroadcasting issue, where they have resized the TV to be smaller, and they place their ads around that. We talked previously about these rebroadcasting issues, such as with Flying J, where they lost their court battle, as well as with Aereo, where they lost their court battle as well. Let's talk about another competitor, Active Digital Signage. They're Phoenix-based, and they purport to have 150 host sites established. They're a formidable competitor, but they go after a different advertising market that we do. I would say it's more similar to Valpak. Their presence is in Arizona, especially in the rural areas such as Payson and Show Low and what have you. More recently, they've established a presence in the Phoenix metro area. A few months back, when I did some due diligence on their host sites, I found of the 5 host sites that I visited, 1 was out of business, 2 did not have their screens up, and 2 did have their screens up, but 1 only had 2 advertisements and the other one had 4 advertisements that were playing. The typical Active Digital Signage franchise has 20 screens, which is similar to Media 360, where they normally have 20 screens. Their cost is around $45,000, similar to ours, with $25,000 for the franchise fee plus equipment, with approximately $1,000 per screen per host site. They utilize a 40-inch TV, that is their only option, but instead of having one ad such as we do, their screen is divided into 5 zones. Their paid advertiser typically is in this zone, noted in the red. In the blue is where they let the host site place their information. There's also a place for content, noted here in the green area. In the host sites I visited, it was showing weather. And then they have the self-promotion area for their own advertisement. Now, the pricing for their ads is less expensive than ours. 20 screens typically cost $199 a month. They charge by the number of screens. So typically 20 screens is $199, 10 screens is about $110, whereas we charge by viewership, as in eyes on the screen. However, we are more expensive. If you happen to visit one of the host sites, you would probably find that it's not quite as easy to see the ads unless you're right on top of them. One of the reasons is that it's only a 40-inch TV. And the other reason is that 40-inch TV is divided up into 5 zones. Most people suggest that ADS's ads are rather basic, but admittedly we started out that way as well. So again, comparing their ads to our ads, most would say the quality of our ads is much improved. If we look at some of the other competitors out there, there's stores that have screens, although they usually show their own content. There's tablets that are in taxis. And this is giving you a sample of the screens that we have in 1,000 cabs. Another type of competitor would be screens that are in elevators. Although there are many metropolitan areas, even Phoenix, that don't have that many tall buildings. There are also screens in golf carts. And this is giving you an example of that. You've probably also seen screens in bathrooms. Although we normally find these ads to be static posters. However, we did come across one firm that puts tablets in the bathrooms. And there are many other and different types of competitors that are out there, and there will be a lot more to come. Our vision is to build out as quickly as possible. The problem with that is that it's expensive, and we need boots on the ground to get there, at least in the beginning. So our goal is to create a large footprint with franchises and corporate stores. And at some level, we'll probably stop licensing new franchises. With this additional growth, we find that at about 100,000 to 250,000 monthly viewers, that ad agencies have an interest in working with us. And at about 500,000 to 1 million monthly viewers, then more regional and national advertisers have an interest in working with us. If I were going to give you our big vision, be acquired or do an IPO in 5 to 7 years. It will end up being a nice ride for those who wish to join us. And even if we don't do an IPO, our franchises will be well compensated along the way.